What is going on, everybody? I am officially back from the US tour and just back in general. So, start off by saying apologies for not doing an episode during the US tour. I expected to do one while I was staying in Orlando. The Wi-Fi at our hotel ended up being terrible, and there'd have been zero chance of me doing that. But I'm back. I should be back for the next couple weeks here, getting back into it with the recap episode today. I got about 3 pages of notes compared to about usually 1 page. So we'll see how long this goes. And then next week, after the Community Shield, I will be having my first ever guest with the Snobby Boys appearing, making their debut on my show. So excited to have them on, and we'll go over the Community Shield, talk about the upcoming season, just expectations and whatnot. And then the week after, once we're into the season, after the Chelsea match, I will be having my brother Ryan on the episode to talk about the Chelsea match that will have just happened, and then we'll talk about the upcoming season and whatnot. Try to make it more city centered than Chelsea. And yeah, but besides that, then we'll be back into the normal episodes, pending anything else coming up. But besides that, I'm ready to go. So hope you guys are ready. I have a whole list of things to go through from the tour. So if you're new here, welcome. I gained a ton of followers over the tour. So if you're here watching, listening, whatever, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. And this is, like I said, it's going to be a long one. So I figured the best way to do it was to go day by day of kind of just what happened. I'll try to be a little more in-depth on the city stuff, a little more vague on the non-city stuff. But for me, it's probably just easier to start at the top, go all the way through the last 2 weeks and kind of what went down. But besides that, I don't plan to do full like match breakdowns for 4 matches. That would be insane. Plus, I don't fully remember everything just because there was so many matches and everything like that. I wasn't taking individual notes while I was at the match, obviously. But before I get into it, I want to give a huge shout out to my wife, Kayla, who made the trip with me 2 weeks. And not only just doing the whole trip and traveling and taking 2 weeks of vacation, which we both needed 2 weeks off of work anyway, but just doing the whole trip, getting up early, traveling as far as we did. And but not only just doing that while 6 months pregnant. So huge shout out to her just for being a trooper on this entire trip. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. I had a ton of fun, but I couldn't have done it without her. I drove most of the time, but I would have been bored out of my mind if I did that all by myself. So ton of fun. Not sure it's something I want to do again, and it has nothing to do with city. It's more about driving and learning driving habits of people around this country are really bad in some areas of this country. So, but we're good. We didn't get in any accidents, so it was all good. But with that being said, let's jump right in. So we left on July 20th, drove to West Virginia. So I'm in Wisconsin. If you don't know where that is, in the Midwest, middle of the country. If you're watching or listening from somewhere else in the world, middle of the country, drove 8 hours, 10 hours to West Virginia, and spent the night there. Before the 21st, we got to Chapel Hill, checked into our hotel. City had a pop-up shop, visited the team store, got to see the Premier League trophy. So that was cool to jump in right away. I didn't expect the trophy to be at the store when we got there. So that was cool. We got some pictures with just the Premier League trophy, not the Super Cup and the Club World Cup trophy yet, but just some individual pictures with the Premier League trophy. Wasn't a ton of people around. Bought some cool city merch before the tour got started, and it was nice. And then City had a welcome party. I don't know who was all invited. I have a City Citizens membership whatever the membership is below the match day one, because obviously I'm not going to a lot of matches, so it doesn't pay for me to have the match day one. But I have that membership, so I think I got an invite through that, and then I think some of the local supporters groups also got an invite to that party. So that was cool. Got to get the pictures with all three trophies then that they brought on the tour right away. And there was a Q&A with Jolene Lescott and Sean Wright Phillips. Got to see that. Got to meet both of them. Got pictures with both of them. So that was cool to meet some city legends and just relax and be around some city fans. And that was pretty much what went on that first day. We got to meet some of the Shades of Blue guys. Got to meet them for the first time in person, so that was cool. Awesome to see some of them after just really communicating with them online through video and whatnot. But besides that, that was pretty much how that first day went. And then the next day, City had their training at in North Carolina. So got to see Celtic first. Got to see them up and close, and then I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't really paying attention. I don't know a ton of the Celtic players, so obviously I was here for City, so got to see the Celtic players train at least though, and then got to see the City players up close and personal for the first time. So that was a cool experience. It's been a while, 2 years since I've seen them up in Green Bay. Got to go to that training as well, but this one, a lot more people at it, a lot more chaotic. You know, you have people screaming for Holland like crazy, and it's weird to see just how much of a global superstar he is. I guess for me, I think this tour was a little bit of a wake up call to how much of a superstar he really is, just globally. I mean, kids are losing their mind for him, but a lot of Holland specific fans and not City fans. So that was a little irritating at times, just for people screaming for Holland and not taking in all of City in a way. And I know he's the big star, but I feel old, so old with some of these gripes that I have about the tour. But I'll get through everything. Um, but besides that, that's really it. We got to see him train. They didn't do too much, just a couple drills, you know, some passing drills, a little bit of rondo, and then finish up with a shooting drill, a little bit of three-team keep away as well in the middle there. But then on the 23rd, game day, so got there kind of early, not too early, a couple hours before the match. Went to a bar, met some City fans that I hadn't met before, and actually ended up sitting next to one of them at the match. So that was pretty cool to have met who I was sitting next to prior to the match. And then they did have a match day event, but it didn't really seem like a lot was going on at the match day event. They had pictures. You could get pictures with the trophy again, or trophies again, something I'd already done, and they had a few stands up, and I was like, it's all stuff I've done. So we had a little bit of time before the match started. Wanted to see where the Snobby Boys were at, so met up with them prior, tried to see if we could see City's bus, see the players walk in. We did see the Celtic team walk in, did not see the City team walk in. I ended up jumping into the stadium before they did, and so we got in there, got to our seats, and got all sat down, got a beer, got settled in, and then we got the traditional U.S. City experience with the lightning delay, and weird that they tried to evacuate the entire stadium. So got this announcement. Usually you leave your seats, you go back to the concourse, you kind of just chill out there. They wanted us to go back to our cars, is what they told us. Back to our cars. We'll message you when it's safe to come back in. And thinking about it, I don't even think I got a message of when it was safe to come back in. Plus, our car was a good 30-minute walk, probably away. So we kind of hid under a stairwell almost, and just chilled there and sat on the ground, and then kind of just bounced around and waited for them to say it was okay to go back into the stadium. But I was kind of refusing to leave the stadium because it was there were so many people in there. There was a ton of people still left in there. So I was like, if you're gonna still have people in here, I'm not bailing until you get literally everybody out of here. So they didn't get everyone out, and the thing is, they're telling people to go back to their cars, but at the same time, everyone was just queuing up back in line to get right back in. So you have all these people queuing back up. If we go back in, I'm gonna have to wait 30 minutes, 45 minutes to get back in, and 5 minutes before the match started. So I ended up not getting kicked out, but 5 minutes before the match started, they still had people lines out the stadium trying to get people in. So not the most efficient way, and that was with the match being delayed as well because of the lightning. So wasn't the most efficient thing to do. And then they weren't really checking tickets when they were letting people back in. They were just kind of letting them go right through. So I it it's a mess. You could have had people bringing weapons in. Thankfully, nothing happened. There was people running on the field in the match. Again, with the whole weapons thing, someone could have easily done something to a player, easily. And you just think about the whole Copa America situation and everything like that. If you're not checking tickets, you're not making sure that people aren't bringing these things in. Like, these checks are there for a reason. You could end up with an overcrowded stadium. You could end up with people doing something crazy. There's a lot of crazy people out there. So luckily, nothing happened. It was a good match. Kind of. It was an okay match. It was what I expected for the first preseason match. Not a lot to see. Bob impressed. Holland, he looked a little bit back to his normal ways, but he wasn't fully back to himself. And I think through this entire tour, we've seen not just him, we've seen him and a lot of the young guys as well just improve along the way. Bob was a standout the entire time, in my opinion. Or if you were going to give a player of the preseason tour, it'd have to go to Bob. But it's it it was an okay match. We started slow. Celtic went up. Bob ended up scoring in front of us. That was cool to see. But it's preseason; they weren't really celebrating much. It's cool to see the celebrations right in front of you and stuff. But Bob scoring a deflected goal in a preseason match, which they were already losing, he's not going to celebrate too much. But uh, second half came, made some subs. Perone got a goal. Holland got a goal. We ended up losing 3-2. But credit to the Celtic fans. They had a fan section. They were loud. They were proud. Good for them. They were really just, they outshined the City fans. And I expected that there would be some City fans chanting, making some noise. Something, didn't have any of that. There was a "Let's Go City" chant that went around the stadium that made me basically cringe. My brother even texted me while he was watching at home and said, "Well, that wasn't a great chant." And I was like, "Yeah, I fully aware of that." So that I I don't like people trying to Americanize our sport. I think our sport is here to be, you know, city. It's football. It's I cringe every time someone calls it soccer, and I don't like the word myself. But around here, that's what it's called, and they try to Americanize it, Americanize chants, the wave. I don't like. I don't like that at all. Call me whatever you want. I'm kind of a buzzkill. I like to keep it traditional. With we're an English team. We're an English club. I don't want us to be too Americanized. Plain and simple. We have these traditions, these standards here for a reason, and I like to keep them that way. You don't want to take away the groundwork and the framework that this club has come from, and all the history, just because we are a global team at this point, and we're going to get fans from all over the world. That's clear. These tours like that make that very clear. But it's still an English club. It's not our club to Americanize at the end of the day. So I don't like chants like that, and I don't like just the atmosphere in general. We didn't have any city chants going when we were in Green Bay. They were basically going nonstop in 2022. So for them to not be here is a little bit irritating on my part. And it's it was just a little bit frustrating. The last match I attended, so Green Bay, that was the third, fourth city match I'd been to. So I've been to seven total now. Uh, by far the best atmosphere. By far the best atmosphere. So for that to be not there anymore, it was a little bit, I guess, of a check for me to not realize that that wasn't we weren't going to get that at every single match. So a little bit irritating, but it was okay. It was the first match. The best thing is it left room for improvement. So all in all, it was a good match. I had a good time. I met a lot of people, a lot of city fans from a bunch of different places, and like I said, I got to meet up with these different podcasts that I've just kind of met through here and through Twitter and whatnot, and not in person. So uh, cool to meet them, but that's kind of how the match went. And honestly, a lot of people left early anyway, which was a little bit. It bothered me again. If you're gonna show up to a match and you're gonna wear city gear and if you're gonna show up to a match and you're gonna buy city gear, because you could tell these were all freshly bought new kits, the home kit, not this kit, the home kit from this year, and you're gonna buy them for you and your family, and then you're gonna bail in the 60th minute for like I don't understand the point of spending a couple $100 for, say, a family of four to for all your tickets, and then a couple $100 on kits as well, and then you just leave the match early. And what happens to that kit? Does it get thrown in a corner and never touched again? Because there were so many non-city fans there, and I think that's part of what killed the atmosphere. Is you have so many people who just don't understand the history of the club. They don't understand when to cheer for players, when to let the players know they did a good job, and when to start chants, when to do things like that, when to, you know, get the team fired up. The team will respond to how the fans are reacting in a sense. If if the crowd is silent and there's just less energy in the stadium in general, there's going to be less energy on the pitch. It's you see it all the time. So this is no different, and especially with a preseason match where they were here for another 2 weeks. If there's no atmosphere or anything like that, there's not really going to be a lot of energy on the field, and I think that's kind of what we saw, in all honesty. So a little bit weird for me to see that. And I guess the biggest bothering thing for me was seeing people wearing city kits, and then I at the training there was someone who was wearing a city kit who apparently was a United fan, but just uses city on Twitter and was wearing a city kit, or not uses city on FIFA. Sorry, not on Twitter. um, she uses city on FIFA, but as a United fan, and showed up in a city kit. I would have respected more just showing up in a United kit. Like I don't understand that. It's weird behavior, absolutely weird behavior. At the match, when I was leaving, I saw there was someone who said, "Oh, I don't care that City lost. I'm not that big of a fan anyway," and then showed his background to his friend, which I presume was of a different team. But again, I'm not showing up to these in different kits and stuff like that. It's just it is what it is. But anyway, that was the first match. I had fun myself. There was some letdowns, but it wasn't necessarily by the team. It was more by the people around me, and that's what you're going to get as we grow like this. And I'm trying to wrap my head around it more and more. But I know I'm not the only one with these complaints. I'll dive into that a little bit more with the Snobby Boys next week. Uh, so the 24th, we left after the match. We went to Charlotte. I met a friend there, and talked to him for a little bit, and I got to sit down with him. Went to our hotel, which we realized was not the nicest hotel. when we originally booked it. So we were supposed to stay in Charlotte for 2 nights and then drive down to Orlando, but there were cockroaches in our room, and I don't fuck with cockroaches. So um, we went to the nearest Walmart. We got some spray to some cockroach spray, and I killed those, and then basically kept my bag closed the entire time and slept in full clothes and shoes, and got up bright and early the next morning and basically told the hotel, we're not staying another night. So we asked for a refund for our second night, and we drove down to Daytona, stayed in a nice hotel where we knew there was not going to be any roaches. So, which ended up being a blessing because we got a really nice hotel, an outdoor pool, and a lot nicer weather. And in any instance, it's probably better to stay in the weather of Florida than in North Carolina. So, uh, got to do that. And then it just kind of made it easier to transition into Orlando the next day. So, drove to Daytona. And then on the 26th, we went down to Daytona Beach for a little bit, spent some time on the beach. Then we, since our hotel was right next to Daytona International Speedway, went on a tour there. Uh, for those of you who don't know, big race fan, so kind of cool for me. I would have been okay without the tour. I didn't learn anything new, but anyway, got to do that. I got to see some cool stuff that they had in their little museum there, and then we drove to Orlando, and yeah, so stayed 6 nights in Orlando. So that was the first night. Didn't really do anything when we got there. Went to the pool for a little bit, and then we also on the 26th, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that was the day that we launched the third kit in New York. And I know some people had some gripes about that, which I fully understand. I fully understand. It felt like a weird event. I understand why it was launched in New York. I understand why it was the reasoning behind it, the money that you get for that. I get the gripes about the access that some fans were given, and I know not everybody gets that access. And again, this is all stuff I'll talk with more with the snobby boys because it's kind of hard for me to explain on my own here. I'll spend 10 minutes and you still might not fully understand what I'm saying. So I'll get into that more next week. But yeah, it was, I understand the complaints about it, and I'll kind of just leave it at that. So the 27th was the only match that I will missed on the tour. So City played in New York. We spent the day at Gatorland. If you don't know what that is, it is basically a zoo for alligators. Uh, it was pretty cool. It does might not sound that cool, but it was pretty cool. So if you go to Orlando, I recommend checking it out. But then the City match in New York, which I'm so glad that I was going to the rest of the matches. I couldn't tell the atmosphere that well in New York. It seemed a little bit better than the North Carolina atmosphere. I don't know, not being in attendance, it's kind of hard. But oh my gosh, the pitch was terrible, so narrow, and it was it was a sight on TV because it looked like it was about 30 yards across total. So that was my first complaint. Um, Next complaint was the American commentary towards, particularly towards Grealish, is so negative and so I just don't understand. I think, I mean, first of all, it's ESPN, and ESPN should not have any matches at all whatsoever. Their commentary is always awful. They don't know what they're talking about. But in a preseason match, to just be going after Grealish, what's the point? What are you trying to do? It's it was irritating. It made me very glad I was attending the rest, so I didn't have to listen to him on television. But we lost that match. Got to see something that I think has only happened one other time, where the players switched kits at half. So we switched to our third kit. Milan switched to their away kit, which I don't think was even debuted prior. I think that was everyone's first look at it, was when they came out in it. So um, a weird thing to do, but the kits were being auctioned off for charity, so no issues with that. It's just a little bit weird to see. In a preseason friendly, I don't really care. It doesn't. It's whatever. But it was just a little bit interesting to see in general. So, uh, my only other complaint with the match is the obsession with the commentary of Christian Pulisic. I swear the camera was on him every 5 seconds. And I'm there to watch a City match. I'm not there to watch Christian Pulisic sit on the bench and look at and just watch him sit there and watch the match. I don't think he's there to be filmed on the bench the entire time. Uh, he came in. People seemed to happy with that. Whatever. Personally, I did not care. I was there to watch City, and that's it. So a little bit of a gripe with that one as well, but it was more just irritating than anything. It didn't really affect the match. I just would have probably been better off just watching the match on mute more than anything. But then the 28th, we went to the Titanic Museum in Orlando. That's all we did pretty much. Just chilled for the rest of the day. And then the 29th was the second city training, but also found out that Oscar Bob and Ederson were signing autographs at a nearby football merchandise store, which apparently they sold tickets for that. I didn't find out about it. I found out the day of because someone posted on Twitter, and I was like, "Hey, let's maybe see if we can go," because that'd have been cool to be able to meet those two in an event. But didn't know anything about it, and I guess I don't know. I don't know any of the details. I don't know who was given the information on it. I don't know if the Orlando group was or what, but it looked like they sold tickets to it. I don't know for sure, again, because I didn't really have any information. But apparently, they also had that kind of private event thing in North Carolina, which I didn't find out until the day of the match at when we went to the bar prior. So interesting that I understand why you don't want that information out there. I fully understand that. I'm I was a little frustrated by it just with the fact of like I'm a member of an OSC. I'm a member of I have a city membership. So, I pay for these memberships every single year, and that got me that access that to the welcome party. It feels like that should have also been given as information through that of, hey, if you're in the area kind of thing, or, you know, mark if you're going to these matches, this kind of stuff is going on because it'd be cool to get that experience. And I know these experiences aren't given to the locals, and I get why you'd be frustrated by that. I fully do. It's a fully, I don't know what I'm trying to say. It is you are not in the wrong is I guess what I'm trying to say for having that complaint. If that is truly if you're not if we're given this access when we're only get to see them, I get these tours are about making money and stuff like that, but you're giving some of this access to random people who aren't true fans, and when the true fans miss out, I get why you would be upset because I felt at times that I was slighted on this tour just with the lack of information that was being provided. They did the pop-up shop in New York. That was there for a couple weeks before they went there. They did the pop-up shop in North Carolina, and then no more pop-up shops. So, there were certain things that I didn't buy because I was like, well, I know they're releasing the third kit because that had came out already. And I thought going in, I thought maybe they'll release the away kit on here. Usually on these tours, they release one kit. So there were certain things that I passed on when I went to the pop up shop in North Carolina that I was like, I'll wait, I'll see what's at the next one when we're there. And I didn't get that opportunity again. So, at the end of the day, the stuff is cheaper for me to buy on City site than it was in person anyway. So it is what it is. But, it's weird to give some of that access for some of it and then to not do it in other places. And then it just felt like kind of after New York, there was just a ton of information just not being provided. And it'd have been nice for every single location, to even an email to be like, "Hey, here's what's going on, just so you know, FYI." Or, they could have city could have sent out a poll and, "What matches are you attending?" "Okay, I'm going to these 3 matches." Well, then you just subscribed essentially to an automatic email for each one of these locations of this is what's going on. I don't know if I'm asking for a lot. For me, that doesn't really seem like that difficult of something to do, but I just felt like, I'm a member of all these different things. I follow everything. I had notifications turned on for the city pages, for the local OSC groups, just to know what was going on. And it just felt like there was a lot of just things happening that didn't really seem to be told to everybody. And that's just my biggest thing. I I felt slighted in the fact that some people were getting information and not everybody was getting information. So that was a little bit irritating for me, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. And I still enjoyed it. In my opinion, I had the most fun in Orlando than anywhere else, but I'll keep going. So yeah, didn't get to go to that event with Oscar, Bob, and Ederson. Not a big deal. I move on, and then so that was the day of the city training. Got to see them train a second time, even more up close and personal this time. They were in a I don't fully know what it was. It was like a baseball stadium that looked like it was used as a football training facility. But it was cool. I got in the front row. We got in line early. We're able to get in the front row, and that was general admission, which made it an absolute fucking shit show. Absolute fucking shit show. In all honesty, in an event like that with general admission, and the reason why it was so ridiculous is if you left your seat, you know so if my wife got up to pee or I got up to pee because it's 90 degrees and we're chugging water like crazy uh because it's 90 degrees and humid, we had to put stuff on our seat. I brought an extra kit with just in case players came around and signed autographs, so I would put that on the seat. But you had people trying to steal your seat because, oh, it's general admission. And if it's general admission, well, why can't I sit here? Because no one's sitting here. Just a lack of respect from people. And it really, really pissed me off in all honesty. And then um, during the training, though, it was cool. It happened that Grealish and Holland and Bob and I'm trying to think who else. There were two others in their little rondo session was basically right in front of me. So that was cool to basically have all the quote unquote big names training right in front of me. But post match then, so it's a smaller baseball stadium. So I saw in North Carolina they went around and signed some autographs for some people, and uh, it's I thought it would have been cool to get that experience that. So that's why I do bring when I went to all the trainings, I brought an extra kit with me for that purpose. But being the front row, we did get some players that came by us. I got a kit autographed by seven players. I would love to tell you who, but that's again where it was a shit show, and I had people like jumping on us and like throwing jerseys over our heads and screaming, just absolutely screaming at these players that they don't even know. And I it's frustrating because control your kids, plain and simple. Just control your damn kids. If the first thing, like it, parents aren't were enabling their kids to do this stuff. And we have these kids behind us that are sitting there, and this kid was saying a row behind us, probably 10 years old. And I know kids are kids. I understand that. But he's saying how Grealish sucks and he wished Grealish would come over so he could beat him up. And it's like, and he's talking shit about all these city players. Oh, Grealish sucks and Calvin Phillips sucks and stuff like that. But when these players were anywhere near, they're screaming for their autographs. And that's the point. First of all, control your kids so they're not screaming like that. Control your kids so they're not jumping on my back and my pregnant wife's back. That was extremely frustrating. I have never in my life yelled at someone else's kids. I turned around and screamed at about 5 fucking kids because they were just shoving her and like jumping on her back. like I can't even describe it. Like, and that's why I don't know whose autographs I got, because I couldn't fully tell when I had jerseys being thrown over my head and whatnot. But it was definitely an experience. But at the end of the day, just control your damn kids. If you go to an event like this, I understand these events are for the kids, and I understand that these events are for to have fun. And I'm not saying you have to be a fan of these teams, but to act like that when you don't even know who these players are, and to act like that when you're not even a fan of these clubs. I mean, one of the jerseys being thrown over my head was a Neymar jersey. It's stuff like that that just irritates me. It's I feel so old when I complain about this stuff, but regardless, yeah, it was insane to just anyone to ever behave like that. And I was respectful. I tried to thank all the players who signed my jersey if they were there, and I could talk to them if I had that opportunity. I asked them politely and things like that. It's simple things like that. And there were a lot of players who came near us and then ended up walking away. And I think it's because you had all these people just acting like this. So if you act respectful towards the players, they will act respectful back. They are humans, and I get they are famous humans, and it's cool to meet them. It's cool to get their autograph and stuff like that. But at the same time, you need to show them respect, and they'll show you respect in return. So uh, certain players like Bob and McAtee came close. Rico came close, and they turned around the other direction because you can't just act like that. So for the sake of myself and my wife not getting tackled, I'm actually very happy that Grealish and Holland came nowhere near us, just because people were acting so insane. But anyway, that was an interesting experience. I have that jersey in my closet right now. I will get a frame, and hopefully, I'm hoping I have enough room. I don't know which way to turn here. Back that way, behind to put under the Foden jersey there, just and hang that up. So that'll be cool. I'm hoping to maybe with some help from you guys, track down who all signed these. I have 3 or 4 of them figured out. There's just a couple that I don't fully know which players they were. So I will hopefully get that figured out. But anyway, July 30th into the second match I went to, the Orlando match. There was a fan fest. I got some cooler trophy picks than I got before, so that was cool to see. The line was excruciatingly long, and just we waited in it for about 45 hours with 90 plus temperatures and humidity through the roof, and basically no wind. And then you're kind of being crunched in, so you get even less wind. So I felt close to passing out, in all honesty. Again, that is where my wife was an absolute trooper in doing that. But we got some cool pics with the trophies. And then we made our way to our seats, grabbed a beer again, got to our seats, and the lightning delay hit again. So that one was actually the coolest one for me, because if you were at the Green Bay match, you got to see fans chanting on the concourse during the lightning delays, and that's what made the atmosphere so cool. And it went out onto the stadium as well. So that was cool to see. That happened here. I'm glad my wife got to see it, because she didn't get to see that in Green Bay. So that was cool that she got to see that, and just kind of see the fans in general. But beyond that, it didn't carry out too much to our seats. So, you know, I was lucky in the sense that I was near the supporters group area. There was a little bit chanting here and there going on. Huge shout out to Martin from the Mancunian Way. He was a couple rows behind us. He was trying to lead in chants. People just didn't know him. And this is where I will say I will take some of the blame on that. If you know me, I'm not a very outward person. I'm a very, very shy person. It takes a lot for me to even do this. And, there's what, uh, almost 30 people watching here. And for me, that is terrifying. I'm like sweating through this kit right now. I'm very shy. I'm very introverted. It takes me a lot to do this. So doing stuff like that when there's not a lot of people joining in is hard for me. I understand that I'm to blame for some of that atmosphere. Someone starts it, I join in. Towards the end of the match, I tried to join in a little bit more, but it really wasn't. It wasn't picking up. So as much as I take the blame for some of that, it's everyone's got to do it for everyone else to do it. And I was happy that that while the wave was going on, Martin was booing because I felt the exact same way. So if you're watching, shout out, huge shout out to him for that. But anyway, into the match. Apparently, Holland scored, and it wasn't called a goal. It was on the opposite end of me, so I didn't see how close it was. I checked my phone at halftime, mostly to text my brother to ask. So in all the preseason matches, I'll preface it with this. Basically, every single one was 1 minute of stoppage at the end of each half. So, but the clock stopped at 45. We didn't get to see the clock go further than that. So you don't know how much further it or how much time is left. But so I checked my phone at half to ask my brother how much extra time they gave Barcelona to score. And he said they were about 17 seconds over the 1 minute, and the ball didn't go out in that entire time. So a little bit frustrating that they allowed them to basically hang on to the ball until they scored. Also robbed us of a goal. But Nico O'Reilly got a goal in the far end away from us. So good for him. Cool for him. He had an awesome preseason tour as well, but I'll get into that a little bit more later. But just the refing in Orlando bothered me. The refing in general on this tour, I don't feel like was that great. I feel like Orlando was the worst, and I'm gonna leave it at that. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that. But refing wasn't the greatest, but to give Barcelona extra time to score, to rob us of a goal at the same time, and it felt like it could have been 2-1 for City at half, but instead we were down. So that was frustrating. And then cool part, in my opinion, it was my absolute favorite part of the tour, just because of how much crap he gets and everything like that. The Grealish goal right in front of me, that was my favorite part of the tour, 100%. All three matches, 100% my favorite part over Holland's hat trick in person and everything like that. So that was super cool to see. And just the run by Kovacic to set that up was absolutely incredible. And Grealish just blasting it. And, it was definitely helped by the fact that Grealish gets booed everywhere he goes for some reason. He got booed in North Carolina by the Celtic fans. He didn't get booed too much in Orlando. When he came out for the training in Columbus, he got booed. So that was interesting to say the least. And I don't quite recall if he got booed against Chelsea and Columbus as well, but he did. He was getting a lot of boos. So if anyone thinks that was Grealish being booed by City fans, I can 100% confirm that I did not see a single City supporter booing Jack Grealish. That was all opposing fans. So if you think it was City supporters, it was not. I think everyone loves Grealish here. I don't know how you can. He's such a nice guy. If you've seen the videos of the stuff he was doing for people and for kids, just between matches, before matches, the trainings and whatnot, I think he's one of the most stand-up guys in football off the pitch. I understand how you could be annoyed by him on the pitch at times. Fully understand that, but off the pitch, he's one of the nicest guys. So super cool for him to see. And then, of course, the match went into penalties. That was at my end, so that was kind of cool to see. It'd have been a lot cooler to see us win that. But again, it's a friendly. It is what it is. But like I said, overall, atmosphere was a lot better in Orlando than it was in North Carolina. And it seemed like City hit a better gear. I don't know if that was the fact that they're 3 matches into a 4-match preseason tour or the fact of the crowd. I'm sure all of it helped. So cool to see. They kind of seem to have a lot more energy than they had before. So that was pretty awesome to see them feel like they were actually trying their hardest in a friendly match. So Moving on into July 31st, we stayed one extra day in Orlando just to enjoy the nice weather and basically just hung out by the pool all day. I kicked the ball around by a pool. That was fun. I didn't get to do that as much as I wanted to on this entire vacation. Again, another thing, if you know me, I've played so much growing up, and I my life revolves around the sport so much. I love to have a ball at my feet basically whenever I can. So on vacation, I felt like I should have been able to do that a lot more. That's on me for not doing that. So I'll continue to work on that. But you know, it's the player in me that never stops, the kid in me that just keeps going and wanting to play regardless of anything. So uh, August 1st, we drove back to West Virginia. That took 11 or 12 hours. I don't know. We got stuck in a lot of traffic because a lot of people were getting in accidents in front of us. We got stuck at like 5 o'clock in the morning in Orlando because someone got in an accident. Uh, I don't mean to laugh. I'm not laughing at someone getting in an accident. I'm just laughing at the irony of how are you getting in an accident at 5 o'clock in the morning and making traffic at a standstill. But it is what it is. We made our way there. August 2nd, we made our way up to Columbus from West Virginia, got into our hotel room, kind of. We were given a hotel room that was already taken. So we opened the door and there was someone's belongings still in the room. It ended up taking us about a half hour to 45 minutes to actually get a room. And then once we got it, we had hotel management and two or three housekeeping people come knock on our door to see who was staying in there because when we switched rooms, they didn't mark us as being in that room. So they were confused as to why we had the do not disturb thing on the door. Uh, just we don't like housekeeping coming in. Whatever, not important. But we put that on our door at all times just because we don't like housekeeping coming in, and we're good with our towels. We reuse them and whatnot, so we don't really need them to come in and clean our room. So we always put that on our door. And yeah, we had like three people come and knock on our room. Eventually, the manager came and asked what happened, but apparently when they switched us rooms, they didn't actually mark us in that room. They basically just canceled our booking. But that was good. I lost my car keys, which somehow found their way to the front desk. They ended up calling us, and I got those back. But that would have been terrible to not have those. So luckily, right person, found them. Thank you for bringing them to the front desk. And yeah, so that was definitely an adventure. That's the first time I've ever lost my keys. Obviously, I lose them around the house, but first time I've ever lost my keys. So that was fun. But anyway, uh, got into our hotel room. As you can tell, it took way more time than it should have. And then got to see training in the rain. It really kind of felt like a city training being in the rain. The way the Columbus Crew Stadium is set up, which is where the training was at, we didn't really get wet too much. So we had front row seats there as well. Got to see him kind of up close. Got to see Chelsea up close as well. I have a slight more interest in Chelsea, just with my brother being such a big Chelsea supporter. So uh, cool to see Chelsea, cool to see City, way cooler to see City, even though it was the third time. But it kind of, once I got to Columbus with the vacation ending and whatnot, it kind of felt like I've seen the way we do this. For the love of God, can I have some real games? I want to see games back in Manchester. As much fun as it is seeing them in person, I was starting to miss seeing actual games uh, on TV, and so that was how I was feeling. Columbus match, we got there super early because we were not bad people. We were irresponsible and did not try to buy parking until the night before. Parking was sold out. Found out there was public parking, and I am an over planner, so I got there as soon as the lots opened, and my lot basically stayed empty the entire day because it was a mile and a half away from the stadium. So got there early, didn't have a ton to do. I wasn't the fan fest hadn't even started, so we got some lunch. I kicked a ball around in the parking lot because there was no cars around, and we kind of did a little mini tailgate. Just my wife drinking water while I drank beer and kicked a ball around. So that was fun. We started to walk our way to the fan fest, and on our way there, we were told by some fans, "Hey, if you're headed to the fan fest, there's lightning in the area," so they canceled it. And I was like, "All right, so I guess we're doing that again." Uh, But we got the lightning delay out of the way prior to the match. It did not delay it, but we eventually made our way to our seats once they let us get to them. And then the match started. Holland scored a quick goal for a penalty in which I still don't know why it was given. I didn't see what happened in all honesty. And then I think about 45 seconds later, he scored another one. So two quick goals in the first 5 minutes of the match. And then another two quick in the second half in front of us with Bob and then Holland. And then Sterling scored against us. So that was interesting to see. It was a pretty good finish too on the volley. So I guess good for him. But whatever. It's a preseason match, a 4-2 win. Atmosphere was a little bit better, I would say, than it was better than North Carolina. People were trying. They were definitely trying to get the crowd going. But I still feel like the Orlando match for me was a little bit better. That was my favorite match overall, was the Orlando match. So it was exciting to see them in three different locations, to see kind of just who shows up in different locations, just the different demographic of people showing up in each location. And yeah, so that was cool. It was a fun match. We got back to our hotel, packed up, got up early, drove all the way back here to Wisconsin. And I had today off of work. So that was fun. And that was my entire tour. But just some overall thoughts on the tour that I will go into now that I got through the entire itinerary of what we did. And then I'll finish up with highlighting some players as well, just what they did on the tour. And then just everything kind of to look forward to just in the season, some players that I'm excited to see. So first thing is, I mean, I feel like I've covered a lot of this for the most part. Going back into the fans, a lot of non-fans, City fans wearing City gear, and I get if you start supporting something, and I'll start with I know everybody doesn't have to get to the point where I'm at, where I say I consider myself an expert of the sport. I don't care what anybody else says. I've watched the sport. In a sense, I've watched the sport my entire life for the most part. Have played the sport my entire life since I was 5 years old. I've reffed. I've, in a sense, coached. My brother coaches. My dad coached. Like, if not, I've seen them coach. And, I'm 28 now, so I've been playing for years. And, I know all the ins and outs of the sport. So I feel like, to an extent, I'm an expert, right? Call it what it is. But I don't expect everyone to get to the expert level. And part of me doing this podcast is to try to get people who don't fully understand the sport to try to understand it better. And if I can help one person with that, I feel like I've accomplished something. I feel like I have a different set of city knowledge to give, a different perspective for having played for so long, that's why I do this. So again, I get these tours are to make money. They're to gain new fans. I fully understand that. And you're going to get some fans that are just starting out in their fandom. You might get some fans that just started in their fandom that day. But it felt like there were so many that were just absolutely clueless. And I don't want to call people out in any way, but it's part of a thing of there's a learning curve that you have to have. You can't just come into the sport, I feel like, and just think that I got it down. There's things to learn, there's traditions to learn, there's history to learn. And there's so many people showing up, and whether they're showing up with their kids and their kids are just there for Holland. I saw a lot of that. A lot of them just there for Holland. Holland felt like a star, like Messi or Ronaldo on this trip, in all honesty. So I get that if you're just showing up, or if your kid's favorite player is Holland and you want to go help them and get them to see these players, and it's a cool experience for them. Awesome. I love that. Absolutely love that. At the end of the day, this stuff is the most fun for kids. Yes, us diehard fans who don't get to see them week in and week out, we love to see this stuff too. But if you're just bringing your kids there, you don't fully understand the sport. For the love of God, quit talking like you are an expert because you are not. And it was so irritating to hear people talking and acting like they knew what was going on and just making these stupid fucking comments. And I'm not the person to turn around and check these people. I wish I was at times because it's annoying to hear. It's it's just if you're not an expert on the sport, I ask you to just if you have thoughts and you think you know what you're talking about, again, you might be right, but don't say them so loud because you will offend people like me who actually know what the hell they're talking about. And that's my gripe. I don't know a thing about baseball. I know baseball is very popular in the United States. I've never really liked it. People who do, great. But I don't go to baseball games and act like I know what the hell I'm talking about. If I go to one, which I don't go to them often, I just sit there and try to figure out what the hell's going on. I understand the concept of baseball. That's about it. So that's all I'm asking. If you don't fully understand a sport and you're going to go to an event, great. No issue with that. My issue is when you start talking and acting like you know more than everybody else, that's the problem I have. So that's my first issue there. And, my wife is below a casual supporter. She knows from what I tell her, and she watches maybe a third of the matches throughout the season, and that's probably a generous amount. She doesn't like to wake up early on the weekends. I fully understand it. Not as committed as I am. But she shouldn't have more knowledge than these people who claim that they watch all the time or whatever. And that's just another thing, where someone can say something 2 rows back of me and I can look at her and she can just be like, I know, it's fine, because it bothers me that much. And it's it's frustrating that so many people seem to start out at that newbie stage and they just stay there. Because for me, when I watch a sport, I try to learn as much as I can about it, regardless of what it is. And you know, I'm a very casual follower of the NFL, but I try to keep up the best I can with what's going on. I understand basically every rule in the NFL, even though I don't follow it that much. You know, I started watching the NBA around the time I was in middle school, and I would say I understand everything about the game there. It I just find it weird, and maybe it's just the type of person I am, that you follow a sport and you learn nothing about it. Like it just completely baffles me how you can do that, because how do you know what's going on in the sport if you're not taking the time and the effort to try to learn what's happening and try to learn things about the sport and whatnot. And I'll sit down and watch, around my wife's family, around my father-in-law, and he'll ask questions. He'll try to learn what's going on. He doesn't fully get it, but he's at least trying. And that's what I want for more people to do. I want to challenge more people to try to understand the sport if you're going to watch it. Plain and simple. But my next gripe is, if you're going to show up to a match in a rival kit, first of all, I don't know what the fuck you're doing if you're showing up to a match in a rival kit, because I would never. If there was a match in Green Bay a couple years ago for City, awesome that it was City. So where I live, Green Bay is about 2 hours, and it's kind of where I grew up. I grew up around there. For me, it'd be cool to see a match at Green Bay. And I understand if you live around an area and you are a football supporter and it's cool to see, but you don't need to show up in those kits. And if you're going to and you want to be prideful, okay, more power to you. But if you're going to get comments, and if you get annoyed that people are giving you shit when you wear that, then don't wear it or don't show up. Because if there was a match again in Green Bay and it was one of the red teams and City wasn't in the match, I'm not going. I have no interest in seeing those clubs. And I don't understand why you show up to your rival's match without wearing that. Just I don't understand why you do it in general. So it bothers me, and you're going to get shit. So if you're going to get shit, then why do it? If two random European clubs were playing in Green Bay again, I'd probably go. I don't know if I'd wear something City though. It depend on who was playing, but I might show up in a basketball jersey, because why not? I go to NBA games all the time, and I'm around the Milwaukee Bucks. I don't consider myself a Milwaukee Bucks fan. if I'm not cheering for either of the teams, I will show up in city gear because I'm not a fan of the teams. So that's just where I'm at, and it kind of annoyed me. But the other thing I want to talk about is just as far as the autograph access and things like that. I said I was lucky enough in Orlando to be able to get that. It was wild. It looked like there was paid access to get that for the most part in North Carolina and Columbus. I don't know for sure. I don't know if the local clubs or supporter groups got that access or if that was paid access or what that was. There was a couple players who went off from the said people who were lined up, signed some autographs in Columbus. Guardiola did it in North Carolina. I don't know who, if anybody really did, because I left before that happened. The players came over, clapped on my side, and I got out of there because that was also delayed by lightning as well. Anyway, the point I want to make though is I understand those opportunities are not given in other places. I think they're given more on these preseason tours to try to gain fans. If I think it's part of we don't get to see them week in and week out, and that's why it's given. Again, it sucks that the locals are not given that access. I wish they were. In a perfect world, there'd be these open training sessions that locals could go to and get this kind of access. With us traveling every summer to a different location, I don't know if that's even a possibility. But again, in a perfect world, I'd love for that to happen. I'd love for the locals to get that access. I think it would be great for, the locals to be able to, get the access that I got even, even if it was just, a couple of youth players signature on a kit. It's cool. For me being a fan, as long as I have been, it's cool to get that. And I don't care if I'm an adult and I don't care if you judge me for it because at the end of the day, the way I see it is if you act respectful, and I know this stuff is mostly for the kids, but if you act respectful as an adult, and a lot of us look up to these players still, in a way, in a sense, they've done so much for us that as long as you're respectful about it, I don't mind if you're 5 or if you're 55, just don't act weird. That's my only thing. So it's just yeah, it'll be interesting to see how next season goes with the Club World Cup being here. I don't expect any open training sessions. I would love for the atmosphere to be better. I fear it's going to be worse. I fear with there being real matches that there will be a lot more people going just for the experience, and it felt like there was a lot of people doing that already. If you're watching and you are a local from Manchester or from the UK in general, I urge you to come to these matches because we need you. We need you to bring the atmosphere. It just doesn't happen here. And I said earlier, I know that I'm partially to blame for some of that, just with me not having an outward personality. But I know there were some people trying to get things going, and there's strength in numbers. So if you have the ability to come here next summer, I look forward to meeting you here, and I look forward to bringing the energy because, like I said, we most definitely need that. But I'm afraid if we don't have people like that coming over here, and we continue to have more and more new fans who don't understand the history of the club, the traditions of the club, and just everything, the chants, all of that stuff, and don't bring the energy and the atmosphere, more people going without knowing this stuff, then you're going to get these matches where at times it felt like you could hear a pin drop, in all honesty. So when you don't have, you know, enough people with enough knowledge to do that stuff, I think that's where you kind of it lets the teams down a little bit. And that's part of what I fear with Premier League matches coming to the United States. I fear that we will lose that atmosphere entirely. So if we're gonna have these matches here and it's gonna be silent the entire match, then why are we taking away from the season ticket holders? That's my only question. If it's gonna keep looking like that, and I know it's all about money, but there's got to be at some point you have to draw a line in the sand, in my opinion. So I think next year will be a big tell to see if who comes to support from other areas, what we get for a kind of atmosphere. We'll see. With a child on the way, I don't know. I plan to attend the Club World Cup next year. I don't know any of the locations. I don't know anything. I don't even know any matches or anything like that. So I will do my best to attend matches again because this was so much fun. I will not be driving. I will be flying if I go to those because driving over 2,500 miles, and that was just from stadium to stadium to stadium. I think in the extra things I did, it was well over 3,000 miles, and I drove somewhere probably between 40 to 50 hours, probably closer to 50, and that is excruciatingly long. So again, if I do something like this again, I had so much fun with the city parts, but I spent so much time driving that I honestly felt like I was losing my mind, and I felt like I was coming down with something honestly on the way back, and I don't know if that was just all the build up for everything, and then just finally like settling down. If that's kind of where that went, but regardless, I feel pretty decent now, and it was a ton of fun, but not something I want to do again when I'm driving, but I would most definitely love to do that. And at the end of the day, with the amount of money I spent, I think next time I'm just gonna make a trip over to the Etihad because that would probably save me some money in all honesty. So I'm hoping in the next year or two I can make that happen. Again, no promises. With a child on the way, I do not know anything of my financial situation. So all I know is I have a lot less money than I did 2 weeks ago with how much I spent on this trip. But anyway, let's get into just a few of the players. Let's get into some players on the way out first, and then we'll get into the players I'm looking forward to in the season. So it looks like Alvarez is on his way out to Atleti. I don't know if that's when that's going to become official. It looks like it's pretty close to being official. I don't know what the full fee is going to be, but I fully understand it. He's a good enough player to be a starting striker somewhere. He showed that when Holland was out last year. The amount that he, was able to help us and get results for us was absolutely huge. I think some people forget that for a long time at the beginning of the season, he was kind of our best player. Uh, and then, Foden and Rodri and everything. Obviously, Rodri is Rodri, so he's always been our best player. But if it almost feels like if you talk about our best player, you have to exclude Rodri just because he's always going to be at the top of that list. But it makes sense for him. I don't know if he expected to have as big of a rise as he did when he came here. I mean, you look at it in 2 years, he won everything. And just looking at it from a business aspect, for City paying 14 million and to sell him for 70 million, and it looks like it might be north of 70 million, that's just good business. It's incredible business. We already have Holland. The only question is who else steps up. And for me, there's only two players in my opinion that I would like to see signed, and that is Jamal Musiala or Danny Olmo. Those are the only two players I want, in all honesty. Beyond that, I'd love to just run with the youth players. Now, I know a lot of them aren't at the level that they need to be at, but I I don't know if they're ever going to get to that level unless you kind of just throw them out there at times. You know, would I say Bob was at the level he needed to be last year? No, but he won us the match at Newcastle, which ended up winning us the title. And you look at this preseason, how big of a jump he's made. And you got other players that I think will continue to step up as well. So again, I don't blame Alvarez for leaving. I don't think he expected to win everything like this. And I think he just wants to be the number one guy somewhere. Atletico Madrid has a long history of Argentine strikers. So for him to go there, it makes sense. It's logical in my mind. There's an Argentine manager. So it's it's a good move for him, and I think it's good business for City. At the end of the day, it sucks to lose him, but uh, I I think we have the players to step up, whether that's between Bob, Foden, McAtee, whatever it is. I think we have the players to be able to fill in his role if we do not sign somebody. Next one, looks like Micah Hamilton is going to leave on a permanent transfer to Middlesbrough. which again, it was cool for him to come in, score right away for us. There's not room to bring in every young talent, and that's where I'm at. So if you're not fully at the level, you're not at the level of the Bobs, the Rico Lewis's, the Phil Fodens. You know, I guess I'll put Cole Palmer in there, even though we sold him. If you're not at that level, I understand why we would sell said players. So uh, at the end of the day, it's a business decision. There is a buyback, so we'll see what happens there. And I think it's a good move for him to get first team minutes. And I think those are kind of just the big ones right there. Those two. But a couple players I want to highlight just from what I saw in the preseason tour and what I expect moving forward into this season. So I'll start with Oscar Bob. I've kind of already gone through what I saw from him. Our best player on the tour. I don't know how many goals and assists he ended up with total, but I it was a lot, and it was cool to see him in person, being able to play the way he was, being able to produce, being able to take players on one, being able to finish on his own and create his own opportunities, create opportunities for others. I think we're going to see kind of that breakout year for Oscar Bob as long as the minutes are there for him. And then Erling Haaland, obviously we all know who he is. From the beginning, I kind of predicted that big first season, he's going to drop off in the second season. And that's kind of what I figured. And his drop off is not nearly as big of a drop off as other players. So a drop off for Haaland is not that big of a deal. But we did see a little bit of a drop off. I expect him to rise above the first season this year. And I think we're going to see a different Haaland scoring goals. I think we saw a glimpse of that in the Chelsea match. He looked good. He was finishing, and just as the tour went on, he seemed to be finishing better, back to his normal self, and getting back to the Holland that we know and love. So it'll be interesting to see what he does, but I expect a very big season. And obviously, he's the number one guy, and that's another reason why we have the ability to let Alvarez go. And City's made it very clear that if someone doesn't want to be here, that they don't have to stay. So along with that, it looks like Ederson is staying. Finally, the saga seems to be done, and I'm so happy that he is staying. Uh, I love Ortega. Ortega's a great keeper, but I 100% believe that as great as he is, if you put Ortega in goal for us for the entire year, I don't think we win a trophy. I do not think we win a single trophy. And it's not that Ortega is that bad. It's that Ederson is that good. And it's not even just saving ability. It's every single thing that he offers between the distribution and all of that. I think that it would be very hard to win something without Ederson. Now, I say that we've gone the FA Cup with just Ortega in goal. So again, take what I say with a grain of salt. You get what I'm saying. You know, I don't think we win the Premier League title. I don't think we win Champions League with Ortega in goal. With that being said, I don't think either keeper had a good preseason. So we'll see. I'm not taking too much out of the preseason. I don't even take too much out of the Community Shield on Saturday, in all honesty, either. It's still a friendly match. So keepers just seem kind of off the entire tour. Rico Lewis, I think we're going to have to see him step up a little bit more this year. And I don't know what role that's going to be. I don't know if that's defensively, if that's in the midfield. He was playing false nine at one point in the preseason tour. I think there's minutes for him to go out and grab. He's just got to do it and I think Pep is still trying to figure out what his best position is. And I think it's hard with his size, but he's a fighter. He's going to continue to fight. He's going to continue to put in the work and continue to train. And I know if Pep needs to call on him, he will be ready, whatever position that is needed. So he had a fairly good preseason, in my opinion. I would have liked to see a little bit more, but I think he had a pretty good preseason overall. Josko Guardiol, incredible. Orlando match, I think he's a lot of the reason why that match looked a lot better. Him and Kovacic both I'll group them together. We missed them when we didn't have them in that first match, and not really a ton in the second match. But having them out there, they shored up the team a ton. We're going to lean on them a lot, I think, at the beginning of the season here until everybody gets back. All of the English players and Rodri are still gone. So they have not returned yet. I don't know when we're going to see him. I don't. We're probably going to lose the Community Shield on Saturday. I'm just going to throw that out there. Don't get too bummed. The United supporters are going to be insufferable if we do. I'd love to send the kids out there and just beat them like that, but we'll see. I know Pep doesn't like losing, so we'll see what ends up happening there in general. But we'll see what he puts out for a lineup. I don't expect it to be extremely strong, in all honesty, nor should it be. But it'll probably be something similar to what we've been seeing here on the preseason tour. But just Guardiola helped a lot, and Kovacic helped a lot as well. Just shoring up the team, giving some experience, having that senior player out there. I think it helped a lot. So I expect us to lean on them a ton at the beginning of the year, as well as the other guys I've gone through thus far. Jack Grealish, he looked good. He looked closer to his normal self. He was finishing. He was creating. He gets a lot of unnecessary shit, in my opinion. But I expect Grealish to be more effective this summer, or not this summer, this season, than he was last season. I think he had an off year. I think he himself would tell you that he had an off year. He's been training hard. He's been working hard to get back. I know he wants to fight for his position. He wants to fight for the minutes. And I'm looking forward to it. I think he's going to have a better season this year, similar to that treble season, which, again, we don't win that treble without Jack Grealish, 100%. So I'm looking forward to see what steps that he makes forward. I'm looking forward to see if he plays a little more centrally. We saw Jack Grealish central in the preseason tour, so that was cool to see. For years, I've thought since he's been here that he could play centrally, but we have players who can play centrally. So I don't know if we ever needed him to go central, and I think there's potentially the need for that now at times. So I'm interested to see if he actually gets those minutes in real matches. But the last two players I want to touch on are the two players that Pep said will be joining the first team, Nico O'Reilly and James McAtee. So huge credit to both of them. I'm so happy for James McAtee. I've wanted him in the squad for years. He hasn't been at the level. He seemed to be, I'm going to be honest, he was very good in the preseason, but I think he still has some work to do. Same with Nico O'Reilly. They both have work to do. But if they can at least come in, take some pressure, some minutes off of some players who need some rest, De Bruyne, Foden, Rodri, all these guys, and fill in when we need them, when we need to lean on them, then I think they will make huge jumps throughout the season. And I'm looking forward to see how many minutes are there for both of them, and what their roles will be in the squad. I don't fully know if we know what McAtee's position is going to be. It seems difficult for him to be an attacking midfielder. So we'll see just with the players that we have. But I also think that, he can play out on the wing. I think he could play a false nine if we needed him to. It'll be interesting to see what happens, but I'd rather us lean on those players, lean on the younger players, Bob, Lewis, O'Reilly, McAtee, lean on those guys instead of going out and sign someone who's not at the level we need them to be at. So I'm excited for this season. I'm excited to see what there is to come. The away kit, I believe, will be dropping on the 8th, so in 3 days. And by the time this releases, it'll be 2 days. So excited to see that. A lot of people were wearing them during the preseason tour already. So they are available and floating around in some places, but they will officially be released. I'm waiting for the squad list with the official numbers to be released before I buy any kits. I'm waiting for that official notice that Oscar Bob has changed his number. And then if there is any other departures, to see if other players switch their numbers. I feel like we could see Guardiola switch his number if Calvin Phillips leaves, and we could see him I think we'd see him take that number 4 number. So uh that's the players I want to go through. Obviously, like I said, we have the Community Shield on Saturday against United. I'm expecting them to put out probably a pretty strong lineup, and we will probably put out similar to what we did against Chelsea. Now, our youth players took down Chelsea, youth players with some extras, and but there's a trophy on the line. But at the end of the day, it's a glorified friendly, and we don't take it too seriously. We've won 4 titles in a row. I don't think we've won a single one of those Community Shields. I don't remember if we won one or not because it just doesn't matter. It's something that's cool to win if you win it, and you get a little bit of bragging rights, but at the end of the day, it doesn't do anything. Didn't do anything for Arsenal. I doubt it's going to do anything for United if they end up winning it. So I'm excited to get the season started, even though it is a glorified friendly. From there, we go into the Chelsea match. But between that, like I said, I will be having the Snobby Boys on next week. So excited for that. And then the week after, I will be doing an episode with my brother, Ryan. He is a Chelsea supporter. So we'll kind of break down the Chelsea match, just what he saw, what I saw, and I'll get his insight from an unbiased source on City. And then after that, we should be right back into normal shows. So thank you guys so much for watching. 45 people, that is by far a new high. So thank you, each and every one of you who's watching. I extremely appreciate it. I got a ton of new followers on this tour, and I thank each and every one of you. I appreciate every single one of you. But you guys know where to find me. Citizens Fancast on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and then you can go subscribe on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, all the places. They're all down below, all down there. But thank you guys for listening. I'm excited to get back in the season, and I will see you guys next time. So thank you for watching.